Hello, the Pioneer viewers. How are you? Today we will share with you the details of the really critical and interesting operations, thousands of kilometers away from the battlefield. This operation, which took place near the Russian-Chinese border, dropped like a bomb on the agenda. As a result of the powerful explosions, the railway line became almost unusable. So much so that even Russian intelligence was shocked by this operation. Allegedly, Russian intelligence failed to recognize the operations carried out by the Ukrainian intelligence for a long time. Since the beginning of the war, Russian authorities have held Ukraine responsible for fires and explosions on the railway lines within the borders of the Russian Federation. Recently, it is reported that an explosion occurred on the freight train and a big fire broke out. The allegations made after the attacks that took place in the past days are quite remarkable. So, what are the details of the explosions on the railway line? Let's take a look at the developments together. As the Pioneer team, we covered the Russia-Ukraine war both with the developments on the front line and developments behind the front line. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also help us reach more people by commenting on our videos and support us to improve our content. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. In recent days, the Russian Federation has been shaken by a huge explosion. According to reports, the two explosions will create a major problem in Russia's trade with North Korea and the People's Republic of China. As you know, the military needs of the Russian army are largely unavailable due to the sanctions imposed. Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, relies on two countries to meet military needs. These two countries are North Korea and the People's Republic of China. As you know, there are many autonomous republics in the Russian Federation. One of them is the Republic of Buryatia. Baikal Armor main railway line is located here. Severmutsky Tunnel is located on the railway line. This tunnel has a length of approximately 14 kilometers. According to reports, a large explosion occurred in a freight train here recently. During these explosions, a wagon was blown up by the explosion. However, the situation was not limited to this. Because the freight train was carrying diesel fuel, with the effect of the explosion, a large fire occurred in many wagons. Allegedly, about 50 wagons had to stop. Moreover, due to the explosions and the fire in the tunnel and the railway become unusable. Allegedly, a bomb was placed under the locomotive by Ukrainian intelligence personnel. However, this incident was not limited to this. Ukrainian intelligence personnel had prepared these operations very carefully. The railway traffic in the area was diverted to a 35-meter high bridge. However, another explosion occurred in this area. The explosive plates detonated and the train carrying a fuel tank was blown up. According to reports, the impact of the explosions spread over an area of about 150 square meters. 4 tanks in the train were completely burnt with the explosions. The remaining 2 tanks were severely damaged by the fire. This explosion received a wide coverage in the Ukrainian, Russian, and international press. Ukrainian intelligence sources made the following statements about the attack. Russian special services should get used to the fact that our people are everywhere, even the remote Buryatia. As can be seen, Ukrainian intelligence personnel carried out a critical operation at a point quite far from the front line, dealing 2 major blows to Russia. Both a major disruption occurred in the shipments of military support of the Russian Federation, and the Russian Federation suffered a heavy commercial blow. As you can imagine, Russian sources claim that the operation does not have a major effect. However, the information we have obtained from local sources refutes Russian official sources. Local sources who claim that it took a long time to remove the debris of the explosion in tunnel also report that many shipments were disturbed during this time. We think that there is a possibility that there will be consequences that we will put the Russian army in a difficult situation due to this operation in the coming days. This operation carried out by the Ukrainian intelligence shows how much Russian intelligence has lost its power and control within the borders of the Russian Federation. It is understood that the frequent assertive statements of the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, about the security services of his country are just propaganda. This sabotage attack, which took place thousands of kilometers from the Ukrainian borders, also showed how strong and how successful Ukrainian intelligence is. Of course, in addition to the operations carried out by the Ukrainian intelligence, Ukrainian armed forces continue their operations against the Russian troops on the front line. The clashes on the front line are quite furious. There are several areas where the conflict has intensified since the end of August. A very remarkable report on the developments in these areas has emerged. According to reports, a large number of Russian soldiers have been captured by the Ukrainian armed forces in the last 3 months. However, reports on the capture of the Russian soldiers are heavily censored by the Russian sources. However, the families of the Russian soldiers captured by the Ukrainian army announced the truth to the whole world. According to reports, the Russian army does not inform the families and relatives of the captured Russian soldiers. The families of captured Russian soldiers received this information directly from Ukraine. The Russian army's failure to provide the necessary information about the captured Russian soldiers caused great unrest among the Russian people. We also see the reflections of this unrest in the Russian sources. Allegedly, the families of the captured Russian soldiers began to prepare a large-scale protest demonstration in the Russian Federation. However, as we mentioned, these are still allegations. According to the claims of Russian sources, the Russian administration is also continuing its preparations to prevent these protests. We think as long as the war process is prolonged, the Russian soldiers will be captured more and more, because we have previously mentioned that wounded Russian soldiers on the Kherson front line were left in the conflict area. This can enable Ukrainian troops to capture Russian soldiers. Of course, in this case, reactions against the Russian administration will also increase. As we mentioned, intense clashes are taking place on the front line. The maneuvers carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces have worn out the Russian army considerably. The losses of the Russian army are also increasing considerably thanks to these maneuvers. According to the latest data, the losses of the Russian army are as follows: 332,040 military personnel, 5,575 tanks, 1,396 armored military vehicles, 7,949 missile systems, 913 multiple rocket launcher systems, 602 air defense systems, 5,995 unmanned aerial vehicles, 323 military jets, 324 helicopters, 1,569 cruise missiles, 22 warship and assault boats, 1 submarine, 1,432 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 1,140 special equipment. So what do you think? How do you think the successful attacks of the Ukrainian intelligence will affect Russia? Do you think Russian intelligence have failed? Do you think the number of Russian prisoners will increase? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.